3000.
What is doing? My name's Maloney. This is the 3000 podcast. I'm joined today by a chef, executive chef, French bulldog enthusiast, Telina Menzies. Telina, thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Did you enjoy the trek down the freeway? It's a bit of a far drive from the old north side.
From the north side, yeah. It was actually nice to have a little bit of peace and quiet. Just rocked out to some tunes. Yeah, it was a good drive.
Good drive. So I believe you didn't grow up in Melbourne, but you are a proud Melburnian now. So let's talk about your early days. Whereabouts in Australia did you grow up?
WA. Don't hold it against me, but yeah, WA. I classify myself as proud Melburnian now, but I'm definitely very proud to be born and bred in WA. So
it's a great place there, WA, but I've been over to Perth a few times and it is great, but it is a little bit behind the times in some respects. Is it a bit like that in the early days in the culinary world?
A little bit, but they're coming through pretty strong now. There's some amazing restaurants, amazing chefs, and people that I grew up with doing really great things on that side. But yeah, it is a small town. It's still a small town. You know, if you love beaches and stuff like that, it is the place to be. It's got beautiful beaches and great weather, unlike us, especially right now.
It's shit house.
Yeah.
So tell us about the early days. When did you first discover your love for food and sort of figure out that was going to be your life's work?
Life's work, well,
it is, isn't it?
Well, kind of 25-year veteran. So, yeah, look, who doesn't love food, first and foremost? But my biological father is a chef. My two uncles are chefs. I actually wanted to be a graphic designer, believe it or not. And my grandparents sat me down. They were pretty, had a big role to play in my life. And they said to me, hey, look, here's 3 jobs for graphic design and photography and stuff like that. And here's a gazillion jobs for hospitality. So kind of make a choice. So they kind of pushed me into it a little bit. And I'm glad. I'm really glad that I took this path, for sure.
Graphic design, I love that sort of stuff as well. And it is something that I thought I was going to do for a long period of time. But it's a very competitive game. You don't
100%.
get paid very well. And there's a lot of people pushing for do this job and it'll be good for you, that sort of thing. So I think you made the right choice.
Yeah.
So in Perth, you're living there. You're deciding you want to make food. Your passion. You're going to make your passion your livelihood. What's the first step that you take in some sort of process like that? Do you do it straight out of school?
Yeah, I actually started during year 11 and 12. I was one of those kids that couldn't pay attention in school, always was getting in trouble. So I did a lot of selective subjects. So I did, one of them was a hospitality course. So I went out every Friday and actually did hands-on stuff, which is how I learned. So I sort of use my hands and more of a visualist rather than I can't read. Like I can read. Just to be clear, I can read, but I'm pretty sure I've got ADD.
You're a visual person.
Yeah, I'm a visual person, so I can't concentrate for too long. So, yeah, it was really good for me to sort of get out of this classroom and get into being able to get my hands into something. Yeah, so I started doing that, and then by the time I graduated, I knew that's really what I wanted to do. So it's a really hard thing when you're 14 or 15 years old getting told to make decisions for what you're going to do for the rest of your life.
Totally.
Like, don't you find that weird?
It is. It's really a strange experience, and I think that no one really knows what they want. Okay,
I still don't know sometimes.
Exactly.
I'm 40. I'm over 40 years old.
Some people know from an early age, that's all I want to do. That's all I want to do.
Yeah.
You know, like I spoke to Carl Ellison, who's a cinematographer, the episode before you. He knew as soon as at 6 years old, that's exactly what he wanted to do. And good on him.
Did you want to work with dolphins? I did at some point.
There you go.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah. I commend people that know exactly what they want to do, but it's funny how schools in particular, or just older people, think that they can tell you need to know at an early age.
Yeah. I still blows my mind, you know. Anyway.
But you fell into what you love.
I literally fell. But yeah, look, you know, kitchens are, you know, we're all a little bit peculiar, and it's like this family that you never wanted but you have, and it's actually a really supportive space, and it's filled with a lot of people that are the same. So, you know, I've said it many times. I think cooking saved my life. When I was a kid, I went off the rails a lot, and I was a bit of a troublemaker, and I really think that without that kitchen space and that discipline and stuff like that, I probably wouldn't be here today. So yeah, I started, got my first job at the Hyatt, which back then hotels was where it was at. It was a really
And that's a prestigious one too.
yeah
To start at.
for sure. So it was good getting, and it was such a diverse, learning within the hotel space, because they had fine dining restaurants and banqueting and cafes and a la carte and production and pastry kitchens and stuff. So I really got quite a well-rounded, education from a young age.
And I'm guessing seeing it at a high level as well, as like volume-wise, you're pumping a lot of food.
Yeah, it was busy.
Yeah.
It was busy. It was good. So and it kept me, when I was at work, it kept me out of trouble most of the time. So, I really, really enjoyed, my time there. So.
And then, so as an apprentice in any job, you're gonna cop it a little bit. I'm guessing the chef game is no different.
Yeah, I mean, it's very different back then to what it is now. I'll just say that. But it was. I remember filling out my timesheet, and I put in the hours that I actually did, and my boss coming along and like scratching it out and just putting 9-5, 9-5.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, that's how it is. So it was different. Mine, it was quite different. The Hyatt was a really good place, don't get me wrong, and I worked under some amazing mentors and executive chefs within that space. So I was very lucky. I have heard people that have had far worse experiences than myself, but it was firm, and it was we worked bloody hard.
Yep.
But it definitely wasn't. I was thankfully not in an abusive environment or anything.
Which
within
I think
that time.
It does happen though a lot though, doesn't it? Especially for apprentices.
Not so much apprentices,
Now.
just anyone.
Right.
In the past, like I said, it's very different now. Nobody puts up with that shit. So, and rightfully so. So, but it was a really good foundation for me. I was really lucky to have that opportunity.
And I guess seeing a whole bunch of, like you said, pastries, all sorts of a whole gamut of different culinary things. So you get to see what you're interested in and which path you're going to progress to
it
next.
Definitely wasn't pastry. I hate it. I'm just really bad at it. And, thankfully I just can employ people to do that find it interesting. I just the weighing of stuff and the really precision and the following. I'm far too like, I want to see what it looks like now, and I try and cut into it, and I'm just not one of those types of people.
It's too delicate.
Yeah, they're like a scientist, like I'm not. I'm just like hard and fast,
So after the Hyatt, where did you decide you wanted to go? Did you sort of have the trajectory mapped out for you then? You knew where you were going to go, or you still like just trying to find your way?
I got an opportunity through connections and doing competitions. I used to do a lot of culinary competitions. They opened the convention centre, which was biggest space in the Southern Hemisphere. So I actually got an opportunity to move there with one of the executive chef at the time is really well known. He was doing amazing things in the culinary space and competitive space. So I moved there with him. He basically poached like great chefs from around town.
So that's a vote of confidence if he took you with him then.
Yeah, I don't know whether he regretted it at the beginning. But we got there in the end. We get along now. So I went there. It was really, really good as well. Like I basically took on a role that was far too big for me, but I'd get in at sometimes 4:00 in the morning to get my shit together to be organised, because when it was pumping, like we were doing 15,000 meals a day, and I ended up running... I was running the hot kitchen and the cold larder and then the pastry kitchen through my disgust. At one stage, I had people to weigh stuff for me, so then I'd chuck it all together. Like I figured out how to work around my hate for pastry. It was hectic. But I jumped into a role that was far too big for me. I think I burnt out at one stage. I had like stomach ulcers and stuff like that. But I learned a lot. I learned a lot about being organised and running teams of people, and I think that sort of high volume function side of things really gave me a great pillar to be able to adapt to different styles of cooking.
And from my limited kitchen knowledge, you need to be able to work under pressure in any kitchen, basically. That is like a huge part of the job. So you learn, you're going to have to learn that sooner or later. So 100%. You may as well learn it soon.
Well, you could say that, but is it good to put somebody in a role that they're just not ready for and they're working 80, 90 hours a week and learn it? Like, I think, I'm really cautious now with my team. I've got a massive team, hundreds of chefs, and, putting people, a lot of them want to step up, and sometimes I think maybe I'm holding them back, but it's really about setting people up for success because I'm worried to do to them what happened to me, but I didn't have anyone that really gave a shit about where I was at and my mental health at the time. They were just like, because I kept doing it, they just kept giving it to me, So, I guess, there is that, just fuck around and find out, or sink and swim mentality, and sometimes it works for people, but other times we probably lose a lot of people within our industry.
It breaks them.
Because it breaks them, right? So that's what I'm kind of conscious of, but this time it worked.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's like anything, you got to find the balancing point, the middle, for working people, pushing them to their best of their abilities, but without overworking them and pushing them to breaking point.
100%. And that's, a lot of people get put into roles that they're not ready for, because we don't have the skill set, sometimes we've been in those positions. We're better now, but a couple of years ago. And we're putting people in roles and then they're just fucking drowning, and then we, they leave the industry, or we say you're not good enough and, find somebody else. It's just this vicious cycle sometimes.
It is. And I think that it takes a special kind of person to work in a kitchen, like it's not for everybody.
Certain amount of crazy.
A little bit, like without going too deep, but with a lot of my dealings in pubs, the chefs are always pretty interesting,
That's a nice way to put it.
They're great to have a beer with.
Yeah.
They're always resourceful and, so that it does take interesting people, and probably some of the most interesting people I've met in pubs are the people that work in the kitchen.
Yeah. Yeah, we are all a little bit interesting. I think, love the rush of service, and we like sucker for punishment.
I think it's something to do with, especially from and I can only really talk from the pub side of it because that's where my dealings with most of the kitchen people would work. But the split shift stuff lends itself for people to kind of, I'm working in the afternoon, then I got to knock off for a bit. I might have a couple of beers and then I'll be back, which, I know in this day and age probably isn't the way that things are done, but it used to be. And
I definitely did that in London all the time, the whole couple of years that I lived there, but I couldn't do it now. I just want a nap. If I have a couple of beers, especially during the day, I would just want a nap, so it wouldn't work for me. But I'm sure there's chefs out there that do that, and good on them. We'll live a little.
Do we want to talk about London, or are we jumping too far ahead here?
No, I pretty much went to London after I did a couple of years at the convention centre. So,
what was that experience like?
Yeah, I always wanted to go, and then I got out of a extensive relationship and broken heart, and got into another one and broken heart again, and just was like, fuck it. So grabbed a really good friend of mine, and we went over to London, and I hated it actually for the first 6 months.
So you're straight from Perth to London.
From Perth,
Had you gone and spent any period of time over east at all at this stage?
Nah, just like
so that's
all in. Yeah,
that's a big fucking. That's a big change.
From Perth to London,
big time.
Change, yeah. And so I was just like, holy shit. It was just different. It was really different. I found the people really cold. The kitchen space was toxic. The pay was fucking terrible.
But was it fun? The partying?
The partying was fun, but by the time I got back, I was like, after 2 years, I was just a broken human. I think it took me a couple of years to recover, if I've ever recovered. But look, travel was cheap. Parties were good. At that time I was, in my mid-20s, so enjoying that, just chasing parties and going around to different countries and partying in different countries, and so it was great. That part was great. And look, after the first 6 months, I actually made more friends, and there was a really great group of people there that were really supportive, and they all had really great jobs, and it was a really nice little, you'd go out, have dinners and stuff like that. So it was just that, it was a harder place to find people to connect with because it's a very cliquey town.
Hugely. Yeah. And I think Aussies in particular and Kiwis kind of get lumped in this sort of, these guys are just here and they're just want to party. Yeah. Did you find that?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, when I wasn't working, I spent a lot of time in pubs, don't get me wrong. But, we definitely have around the world, I think we've got a stereotype. And I'm not saying that I haven't fitted into it at some points in my life. But, But look, once I did love it, I loved it. And, I had met some great people, great memories. That I'll bank forever, but in terms of culinary-wise, it was hard.
Yeah, and so you just don't feel like you had a great experience personally and socially, but from a work career, you just don't think it was a great experience?
Yeah, look, every experience is learnings, whether you learn what not to do or you learn what to do, and I feel I didn't really learn too much about food by any means, but I turned into somebody that I despise and I'm really not proud of, because the work toxic, like it was so toxic, and like it was just a horrible environment, and it was so competitive, and people would just stitch you up, and you end up like becoming a product of your environment, and you end up sort of morphing into like
somebody you're not proud of.
Yeah, exactly. To be able to keep up, otherwise you're going to get fucking left in the dust, you know? So, So when I sort of look back on it and reflect, I think, there's a lot of things that I'm not proud of within that time. And I look back and it was everything that I'm definitely not now and never want to be. And I think that was a learning in itself about what kind of environment that I want to create for my people. And, so definitely there was learnings. Like, every kid sort of has these hopes and dreams to go over there and you have this glorious sort of career, but they pay you terribly. And I'll just say this was obviously back then. So we're talking, a long time ago, 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. But it was harsh.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be something I would recommend like the way it was back then. But I learned a lot in terms of, about myself, I guess. Yeah.
And I guess it helps you in the future when you've got a team of people working under you. You can remember, well, I was once that person. This person might be, a fish out of water. They might have come here from somewhere else. Let's look after them. You know what I mean? So you learn how to take those things and, like you said, not do them.
Yeah, for sure. But look, like I said, you learn. I just still had some great times. I worked for a massive group over there that ran a lot of major events in some of the best spaces within in London, Buckingham Palace.
Wow, Buckingham Palace?
Yeah, they did a lot of stuff through the V&A Natural History Museum, Chelsea Flower Show, so we did all those events. So I got to go to St Paul's Cathedral, they had the catering for there, so I got to work in different spaces all the time, which was really cool. Yeah. And it didn't burst into flames when I went to St Paul's Cathedral, which I thought I would. But so that experience was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so after 2 years, you decide it's time to head back to Australia, or you sort of have to, don't you? Did you want to stay? Because you only get 2 years, don't you?
Yeah. I think they're changing. They want us there now because they stupidly became independent, which they're regretting, I think. My grandparents are English-Scottish.
Ah, you got the...
Yeah, so...
What's it called? The historic...
Ancestry or whatever.
Yep.
So I could have got that, but I didn't... You know what? I really wanted to get the passport, but now it's worth nothing.
Because of Brexit?
Yeah, it's literally because it's the EU that, you want to be able to have access to, but...
Yeah, that whole immigration thing's weird. Like, I just don't understand it. If we're all going to be part of the same Commonwealth, if people there want to come live here, I don't know. The whole thing...
it should be, a lot easier.
You'd think so.
Yeah, for sure. Some of our best chefs, over here, definitely come from England and from the UK. There's some great... we've got some great members of our teams. And obviously we get an influx every year of, the tourist visa where they can do a couple of years, but it's, there's some of our best staff and they just can't, and from Europe as well, and they just can't stay long enough.
And I'm guessing as the head honcho, there's a lot of times where you have the people like, can you sponsor me? Can you put me, you need it? And you get sort of that pressure put on you as well.
100%.
You can't sponsor fucking everybody.
Exactly. Yeah. I try as much as I can, but at the good ones. But yeah, it is a shame. It is a shame.
So when you come back to Oz, are you going back to Perth? You coming back to Melbourne? Where are you heading to after a couple of years?
Yeah, I went back to Perth. My grandparents were getting sick and they brought me up and I wanted to spend the last few years with them. So, went back to Perth, which is also nice. I was just needed to, be comfortable and in my own space, and I'd done enough festivals and stuff for a little while. So moved back to Perth, got my first head chef gig in Perth, which is really cool.
Did you feel the timing was right for that?
Yeah, like I went in just as a casual. I just didn't want to make any big commitments. I just wanted to sort of settle back into Perth and go to the beach and stuff like that. Because I hadn't seen sun in like 2 years as well. Because I didn't do the summer and went for the summer. I did stupidly winter and winter, so you had double winter, which was really fucking depressing. Once I got back, just started working casually, and then a really good friend of mine, she was one of the owners of this business and was like, you know, do you want to take the head chef role? They currently had a head chef, but he wasn't really coping, and he agreed to sort of step down. So, yeah, took my first head chef job. Yeah. Still wasn't ready, but figured it out.
I'm sure after your experiences in the UK, you come back and you're like, okay, I've learnt a lot. I've learnt how it works. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't feel like you were ready, or you?
No, I'm not. When I look back on it now, I wasn't ready. I knew how to cook, and like food, that's intuitive, and food's food.
It's the managing.
It's the managing of people. I was fucking terrible.
Yeah.
At managing people, I was selfish and made a lot of stupid decisions, and just wasn't mature enough. I think I was still 26, maybe.
Yep.
26, 27. Still young and, needed to learn. But I learned a lot because everyone just kept leaving. You know, I'd get team, but then everything was everyone else's fault. So I kind of learned the hard way. So
I'm guessing like a large portion of being a head chef is just being organised. That's what a huge part of it is.
Yeah, I was definitely organised. Like I worked in big spaces and could run big teams. But it was the manager, like people management is so hard.
It is. Everyone's different.
Well, everyone's different. So some people you got to write lists for, some people you got to talk to, some people need pictures because they're visualists, you know. And now, like I adapt all those things into everything that I do. I've got prep lists with pictures and written and all those sort of things. But back then it was like, I told you, and you'd just expect somebody like, what's wrong with you? Why can't you remember? I just told you that. Mm-hmm. Or now I go, right, I need to write it down. Even I need it written down. But it was just different, you know. I was different and I was just young, and I was once again sort of in a role that I was ready for in some parts, but, you know, mentally and maturity-wise, I just still look back on it now and I don't think I was quite ready, but figured it out.
You did it justice while you were there.
I guess so.
So what's the next step from your first head chef job? Where are you moving to from there?
So I took on... We sort of grew as a group, so went from 1 to 2 to 3 to 5, 6 or 7 maybe before.
Are we talking pubs?
Yeah, just a range of sort of different venues from bars to pubs.
Yep.
So I took on the executive chef for WA for the group that I was working for at the time, which I worked for them for nearly 8 years.
Yep.
They were really good to me. Sort of grew with the group, which was nice.
So you learnt to grow while they were growing, which I guess is helping you as well.
Yeah, and they funded all the mistakes that I made along the way, and you know me growing as a person. So, but look, I worked with probably the most amazing group of people that I ever have, and some of them I still work with, and I'm really lucky to work with now. Grew, and then obviously there was a role in Melbourne that came up because a good friend of mine and my boss at the time, she was moving to a different group, and the role for national came up and they offered it to me, and I was just like, take me to Melbourne, let's go.
Right.
I was really keen to get over here.
And then you're in your late 20s now in that stage?
I'm pretty much 10 years now.
Yeah, yeah, cool.
Yeah, so... Yeah, I don't know.
But you felt at this point that you were capable of managing this amount of venues, and then you were ready. You were mentally prepared.
I was starting to mature.
That's right. Yeah,
I was starting to mature. I still probably the biggest, but I was still sort of, you know, sort of finding my own way in terms of food, which I only think I've just found it now, which is a really odd. It may sound really odd, but sometimes you just come into your sort of maturity in terms of like I'm comfortable and know where I'm meant to be and what I'm doing, and I'm not trying to be somebody else. And and all those sort of things.
Right.
It's a very emotional job.
It's a journey.
It sounds like it, doesn't it? But yeah, I was just trying to sort of figure it out. But I think the biggest focus since I moved here, and in Perth, I was still terrible at managing people, and I was still growing up. The hard thing was about that role, I think, is I was really young. Like, I got put into roles when I was really young, so 22 as sous chefs, running big venues, moving to the UK, coming back, being 27 or something, I think, and taking on big roles where you're the head chef and you're also the same age as all the staff that work in the venue, so you're partying with the staff in the venue, but you're meant to be their boss, and there's this really...
It's a hard one, yeah.
Yeah, so being sort of young... but yeah, once I moved here, I actually worked super closely with the group of people, and some of them are big mentors to me, and still to this day, and we're still great friends and we work together still. But just working with them really closely and seeing the way that they manage people and they spoke to people, and sometimes it's just down to language.
Yep.
Sometimes it's like, hey, no, I want you to do, or you need to, hey, how about we do? Like, it's just small things that change.
And it's different for everybody.
It's different, yeah. So, yeah, it was a big focus for me the last 10 years of, food is pretty intuitive. And like I said, I just feel like I'm sort of coming into my maturity in terms of knowing where I'm at with food, but also in the management of people's spaces is the last 10 years is really focusing on that. And it's actually really helped me, and it's helped my mental health, and it's helped my role by, if you're a better person, people don't fucking leave you all the time, and people want to work with you, because people, despite who you work for and all those sort of things, people work for people. Paychecks come from somebody, but reality is people follow people, people work for people. So, and I'm really, really lucky to have a really great core group of staff now that have been with me for a long time and are super loyal, and vice versa when it comes to the relationship.
So keeping it on track with the chronologicalness, if that's even a fucking word.
Yeah, it is now.
It is now. We've just invented it. So you're about 30-ish. You've got a big job. You moved to Melbourne for the first time. So this is a big city. It's not London, but it's bigger than Perth. Are you finding it's like your eyes are opening up to different things that probably weren't in Perth, as far as different food, different nightlife, different exciting shit?
Yeah, it was. As soon as I moved here, I was like, "This is where I'm meant to be." It is like a better version of London.
Right. In better. It's not as big, but better because it's a little bit. It's smaller. It's just.
Well, it's just it had the big city vibe and everything I hoped and dreamed London to be, but didn't deliver for me.
Yeah.
But certain pockets, like the Shoreditch, all those sort of pockets that I hung out in that were really cool. And, when I moved here, like I said, nearly 10 years ago, it was on a Tuesday night. You'd literally go out and Swanston Street was pumping and the restaurants were pumping like BC days before COVID, and it was just pounding all the time.
You could go out here all week if you wanted to. There'll be somewhere to
100%. And it was just vibing, and it was just, and I just don't think we've recovered from, all the shit that went down.
Definitely, the hospitality industry definitely hasn't recovered. No. I can just think personally, the venues that I know, a lot of them now don't open maybe Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah.
And pre-COVID,
Sydney's like that as well.
Yeah, pre-COVID, that was if a pub was not open a day, it was like something's wrong. It's being mismanaged. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and we've never recovered from that.
Yeah. No, I understand that. It's like I went to Sydney last year. I was doing the food show over in Sydney, and I wanted to go out for dinner. It was Monday night, and so many of the great restaurants that tell you what, if they were open, they would be pumping anyway. But it's easier to, shut on a Sunday, Monday, or something, and just give your staff a rest. And
it is. It's a staffing thing. It's also the overheads, of wages. There's a whole gamut of things. But I think that really is one thing that hasn't bounced back from COVID, and hospitality industry in general copped it pretty bad.
Yeah, we did cop it. I think being in the pub space, I feel very lucky to be in that casual all occasion. You go to the pub when you're happy. You go when you're sad. You go when you break up. You go when you make up. You go for a date. Someone, to celebrate someone's life after they pass away, and or just to finish off a day and, talk to a barfly at the bar. They're a big centre of community, and I feel pretty thankful to be working in that pub space.
Yeah, for sure. I love pubs, and it's like I've met some of my greatest friends at just a local pub. You know what I mean? And I think I hold those sort of places near and dear to my heart. And it's a shame now because younger kids aren't doing it as much. You know what I mean?
They'll preload as well
before
they go out.
It's because it's expensive.
Well, yeah, but it's only expensive because of the taxes and stuff.
That is the biggest problem.
Yeah, I was actually looking at reading a really great broadsheet article the other day, and it just basically said here's this cocktail bar, and here's what it costs them for nips, and it ended up being like $7 for a cocktail before anything. So if you times that by 3, and then $7 of that $7 it costs goes to the staff, 7 goes to paying the rent, overheads, and then they've probably got $3 profitability on that bloody cocktail, but people don't get that.
No. Then you've got rent, you've got staff, you've got insurance, you've got fucking everything to keep the doors open.
Exactly. The fridge blows up. I think, people have a misconception of what people walk away with at the end of a P&L for a hospitality business.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there, especially a lot of the independent people, they are really grinding it out, doing long hours just trying to keep the doors open.
Yeah.
And I feel for them, and I hope that things start to change a little bit and the culture gets back and the kids start going to pubs again. Hopefully. That's my dream.
All of our dreams.
All of our dreams.
Yeah.
So you're in Melbourne, you start to experience new stuff. Is it changing the way that you're approaching your cooking? Do you think, okay, look, I've got my main focus is in pubs, but I want to start to cook different stuff and start to do more, let's say, artistic pursuits with your food? Is that
a good way to...
do you know what I mean?
No, I get what you mean. It's just a funny way to describe it, but obviously you're not in the industry. Stick to your industry.
Yeah.
Seeing there was new produce that I'd never seen, and different, obviously different climate here. They cook differently. WA has a massive Southeast Asian influence, being so close.
Yep.
To Indo, which is, and Thailand and stuff like that. But, they cook differently here. I was being inspired by other chefs that I'd meet or places that I'd go and experience and stuff like that. So it definitely did change for me for the better.
Yeah. I'm going to ask a really serious question. Is it Parma or Palmy?
Parma.
Parma,
Yeah. Parma. I'm not a fan. Personally, I don't understand. This is it, and
of the chicken and cheese, and you're not a fan.
I'm not a fan. So I'm sorry, and it's going to be very controversial. And I actually got two things that are controversial for me: is pineapple on pizza.
Yeah.
Tin pineapple. I'll just be clear.
Fruit
and pork is great. Tin pineapple on pizza is gross.
Yeah.
But also, I don't understand the concept. And look, Parma pays my wage, right? No doubt. So I've got to be, and I'm saying this, I was going to say confidently, but it's not going to be confident. I don't understand the concept of frying something crispy and golden, or panning something crispy and golden, and then putting wet sauce, ham and cheese on it. I just don't get it.
Yeah.
For me personally.
No.
I love a schnitzel, crispy, capers, parmesan, some brown butter, whatever, or just deep fried. Everything's great deep fried, but the crispiness is what makes deep fried food good. But then you go and put all this wet shit on it. I don't get it, but they're the biggest seller in all the pubs. It doesn't bother me.
It's almost as close as Australia has to its signature dish. In a way.
It's a signature dish.
Yeah, because they don't cook it like that anywhere else in the world, really, do they?
No. Well,
it's Italian.
You have the
it's got
Parm,
to be
the Parm in Italy, but they use nice mozzarella and sugo and prosciutto and stuff like that. I'll tell you a funny story. I almost got ran out of Melbourne when I moved here because the first pub I worked at, I'm not going to talk about which pub it was, but I went there and I was like, what the fuck is this? And I looked at it and it was exactly what I described. Crispy, and then you put something wet. And I was like, surely we can do this better. So I was like really nice slow roast sugo, heaps of olive oil, herbs, like cooking that stuff like all day, and then prosciutto, and then like proper torn Fiat latte and some smoked scamozza and parmesan, and then finish it with fresh basil. I nearly got run out of town.
It sounds delicious.
It does, and I thought it was better, but clearly not. I messed with the Parma, and nearly ended my time in Melbourne.
Yeah, well, I think being involved that deep in pubs in Melbourne, I think you're just going to have to got to get used to it.
You got to give people what they want.
Yeah.
It's not about what I want, and that's maybe where you sort of grow in terms of into your role. And as a chef is like, at the end of the day, when it comes to work, you can't have the arrogance so much to cook to what you want to do. You've got to listen to your customer. Because if they're not loving it, you might love it, but it doesn't mean everyone loves it. Yeah. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, a chef from my local pub, he just moved on after 10 years, and I said to him, how many Parmas do you reckon you've done in that tenure? And he said close to 50,000.
Oh, God. No, it wouldn't surprise me. I know how much chicken we do a month and a year, and it blows my mind.
So the company that you were working for when you first came over, you would then move on from them, or you've been with them that whole time?
No, they sold.
Yep.
So, they sold. I actually got sold with the acquisition. I agreed to it, but I got sold with the acquisition. And I'm still with them. So all my roles, and it's not because I'm scared to move, but I have only had 4 jobs in 25 years.
Well, that's a testament to what you're good at what you do.
I think there's something I've been lucky enough to have like big roles within like Hyatts and convention centres and stuff where I progressed a lot through the business. So it wasn't just one little cafe or something like that. But I think it's really important to sort of, especially I was lucky enough to come into young groups so my first exec chef role and then my current where, we started off, they had 2 venues and they went to, 15, and currently is, they had 12 or something when I started, or even less, and now they've got 200 or something. So, that is, luckily I've had jobs that have had growth opportunity, because for me, if there's nowhere to sort of look at the next job and say that's where I want to sort of head to, then you become stagnant. Yeah, I would. I've got a really short attention span.
So aside from the pub gigs and that sort of thing, you've done a lot of cooking all over the world. You just came back from Sri Lanka.
I did. Yeah, that was amazing.
Where are some of your favourite places to cook? And tell us about some of the other gigs that you've had that when you're on the tour, on the road, I guess.
Yeah, I guess, Sri Lanka, I just got back. I did a couple of events over there, which was amazing.
Yeah.
And that was the food, the people, the culture. We went down south, so that was cool. It was different working with, it's a different country, different pace, all those sort of things. And I think that's something I really took away from that experience is slow down a little bit, because I was like, come on. Everything was a little bit island time, and it took me a little bit to adjust.
Yeah.
But people work differently. So, that was awesome. And I'll definitely go back. I was talking to them about there's a new restaurant opening this year. So they've got a new open fire restaurant that they're opening over there. So possibly going and doing another cameo over there.
So how does something like that work out? So people reach out to you and say, look, we've got this new venture. We want to get some chefs in from international chefs to come in.
Yeah.
And you is that how that process like that happens?
Yeah, a lot of restaurants do it here, I guess, getting other chefs to come in and do a night or do a collab with a chef. I find it a really great way to, stay true to, your existing space, but give your punters and your loyal punters or new customer base a reason to come in to that space. Because, so that was great fun.
And an opportunity to work with fresh produce and just, different ingredients.
Totally different. I put stuff like betel leaves on, and they were like, oh, have you tasted them? I'm like, betel leaf will be fine. Obviously thinking about the more Thai-style betel leaf, and these betel leaves were massive and they were thick, and try to eat one, and I was like, wow, we can't use that. So there's a few things like that were just different. It was hot. I've never cooked in a kitchen so hot in my life. But yeah, I was just everything was a little bit different. So the first event was really good, but by the second event, I kind of found my mojo and really figured out about the produce and the kitchen and the wood fire oven and the space that I was working in. So yeah, I was really happy.
And where else have you done those sort of cameos aside from Sri Lanka?
Where else? I think internationally, that's it. I've done some stuff over in New Zealand.
Well, that's international.
Yeah, I guess it. I wouldn't
Not
call it
quite.
international.
They do their Parmas differently.
Do they do a Parma?
I got one when I was over there, and I think it was on a bed of like noodles, like spaghetti.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got a space that does that with the spaghetti meatballs and it's more of that Italian style, the American Italian.
Italian.
I like that.
Yeah.
Everywhere I try to eat in New Zealand had like fried chicken on the menu, even like a Chinese takeaway place.
Really?
Yeah, they love their fried chicken.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they'd want to drown it in wet stuff.
No, it's interesting how every different country has their own take on stuff. I love. There's a place in St Kilda which does. What do they call? It's called Dave's English Chinese, and I'm like, what? And then my friend who's English explained it. He's like, yeah, because the Chinese food here isn't like English Chinese food.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought our Chinese was westernized. Well, the Chinese takeaway like beef and black bean and.
But they want English Chinese. Oh. So there you go. But everyone's
like English Indian as well is totally different.
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh, I ate a lot of Indian food in England actually, which was amazing.
Yeah.
But it's very different to, other Indian stuff that I eat.
Authentic Indian. I've had a lot of different people on this show, but I don't think I've ever had a salmon ambassador on the show.
Oh God.
In your bio, it says you're a salmon ambassador. I just find it interesting.
Well, I work with Aura King, so they produce, world-class salmon. They call it the Wagyu of the Sea. It's delicious, an amazing product. I'm really proud to use that product. But the people as well within that business, there's lots of other ambassadors that I connect with. We do a lot of events, looking at doing new program in, I was going to say next year, but this year with like a bit more youth-based stuff. So, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay, so also aside
it's kind of like a knitting group.
It's with...
You just get together. You talk about
what about, like, obviously you've won some awards and stuff, but now you're also judging awards, so that must be pretty cool.
Yeah. Very cool,
very
actually,
cool.
to be on the other side. I'm way too old to be on the
Is it a young person's game, the competitive cooking stuff?
I reckon, but there's a few people that might shiver me once I leave the studio. Look, I did heaps when I was a kid. I did all the competitions and competed for Australia on the culinary team when I was really young, and that was something.
Was it a good experience?
Yeah, it was a great experience. I got to go. Cooked in Germany and stuff as well. That's Ireland as well.
Yep.
There we go. I'm just forgetful in my old age. But look, I was pretty thankful to be able to do that. But it's really nice to go full circle and now to be able to, give my time and attention back to the next generation. And I think, being able to nurture them and inspire them to stay in the industry and, fall in love with it like I did is, that's kind of a big focus for me now, is to put my energy into that, because I feel like work-wise, I have everything. I'm not sort of aspiring to do more, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I feel like I've, in my personal life, me and my partner Bree, we have everything we need, in life. So now it's kind of, for me personally, I'm trying to make memories and bank memories rather than money, and in my, work life, really focus on the next generation and the people, I think is important.
And I think that's that comes with maturity and a bit of, time that you realise. And I think there's something about 40 for me as well, and I'm guessing for you, that you kind of start to think, there's time to think about things differently,
Yeah, for sure.
Think about the next generation. And you did mention, like, retention. Is that a huge part of it, like keeping people in the game?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You want to keep, if people are good, you want to keep good people. It's a very costly exercise, recruiting staff all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, retention's massive. But yeah, it actually, when I go and do that sort of stuff, it reminds me of why I fell in love with the industry. Because obviously in any job, and the hard part for me sometimes is I love cooking and I'm so passionate about it, not only work-wise but just life-wise. And then, you know, sometimes work in any business, you know, when you're not cooking, you have to deal with, you know, numbers and labour and margins and food costs and overheads and all these other stuff you need to think about.
Takes the fun out of it.
It takes the fun out of it. And it's not, like, it's definitely a big part of my role, but it's not what I love and enjoy. So when I get to go and do that sort of stuff, it gives me a little, like, you know, it makes me feel good. And you know, giving time to that sort of stuff and helping the next generation is just, I think we are, like, I've taken so much of this industry. It's got me to where I am and in life, and they go hand in hand. And I think, you know, that's my way to sort of pay it forward.
Yeah. Is the next what's the word? The kids coming up, is it in a good spot? Like, is the level of what you're seeing and what you're judging, is it moving forward in a good way?
There's some great kids out there. I think we don't have the numbers, but the quality of the talent coming through, they cook far better than I ever did, even now, versus what I cooked like when I was back then. So I think we don't have as many, but they're fucking good.
Do you attribute that to the internet, maybe? Like, what do you think it is?
I didn't have that. I had some old Charlie Trotter books, you know, that I've still got, which are amazing. But, you know, I had just had these books from Europe, and a lot of the times I'd try and cook, the recipes are different because the volumes of fat and stuff in creams and stuff are totally different, so I'd fail a lot. But yeah, they've got Instagram, you know, all these sort of things at their fingertips where they get to be inspired and learn things. And there's so many great platforms where you can learn not only as a chef but just as a home cook and enthusiast as well.
Yeah, and I think with Instagram and whatever, the internet in general, people can learn, and their eyes are open to a whole new. Like when we were younger, you couldn't just see all these different ingredients. They just didn't. They weren't even really out there. You had to dig.
I remember the first computer was about this big, the mat, you know, like.
But just going to the
just play Wheel of Fortune on it.
Yeah, Math Bunny or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but now, like, if you've got a lot of places have got all sorts of gourmet ingredients that we just probably didn't. You had to really dig to find. So I think that's going to better the whole food spectrum in general.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they're very lucky now. They've got a lot of stuff to inspire them and teach them, and you know, but people still have to be motivated.
Yeah,
and that's a big difference. Is like people that actually want to learn and want to push, and then there's a big part of generation that just wants everything given to them on a silver platter. So there's two different types. But from what I've seen, judging some of the competitions that I've just got out of Chef of the Year, you know, Golden Chef's Hat and stuff like that. And, you know, I've worked with Fonterra with the Proud to be a Chef program. The industry is in really good hands. The kids are great.
Yeah.
I shouldn't call them kids.
I say that all the time as well.
They're kids to me. Yeah.
They are.
They're young adults. Yeah, there's some great talent. I was just, when I was at Sydney, I was actually watching some of these chefs. I was about to say it again. Chefs cook, and I was like, oh, man, like I couldn't do that, you know?
Yep. And that's inspiring, I guess, because it makes you go, all right, well, it keeps you fresh and, like, you know, the youth often inspire the older generation as much as the older generation inspire the youth.
Oh, even my own staff, I shouldn't say mine, or our staff, you know, they inspire me, and it's good to be kept on your toes a little bit and to be, you know, have to sort of hustle and have that little bit of like, oh, you know, I need to stay relevant and things like that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works.
What do you think about trends within the food industry? Like, they seem to come and go. Everything goes through a flavour of the month. It's Mexican, and then it's burgers, and then, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of this sort of stuff. But where do you sit on that sort of thing?
I don't really pay attention to it anymore. I maybe did when I was young and, you know, tried to sort of conform to society and what they were doing. But now, you know, building a menu of it, I think the really important thing about creating a space, especially a pub, is pub needs to have certain quintessential things on it and don't fuck with it, like we just talked about.
Steak, parma.
Get run out of Melbourne. You know, all those sort of things. But there's only so much you can do. So, you know, there's not so much. Yeah, I'm not trying too hard anymore. But I definitely think we go through that and, you know, the TikToks and the flip-flops and all those sort of portals and stuff, you know, they're definitely big driving force behind that, you know, like a charcuterie what are the bagel boards and butter boards?
They're big at the moment, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, I had to do some research for a concept recently and I was literally watching. I had to be able to do a menu from top to bottom inspired by, some of these trends. It was like a photo opportunity event, and I was literally watching housewife and these models cooking and having to learn to do these dishes that are famous from TikTok, and it was my worst nightmare. But I did it. Yeah. But look, yeah, for me, I definitely... Well, the one thing I do love at the moment is there's so many amazing chefs in Melbourne that have either grown up here or where a lot of them actually like moved here. And what's really beautiful, instead of moving to a country and cooking what you think people want you to cook, they're actually like getting deep into their heritage and doing amazing spaces and, cooking to their heritage in their own style, like in a Melbourne style. And I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
That our, the whole style of food in Melbourne is shifting. There's a lot of, there's heaps of Indians starting to come through.
A lot of Nepalese.
And Filipino is going nuts. But they're not trends. They're going to stay. But it's just nice to see, that sort of modernised, or their interpretation of, their personality with their heritage coming through. There's places like Edda and Divide the Laundry and all these, I don't know if you've been to Shea, but all these really, beautiful little spaces, and they're just cooking what is really important to them, and that's really nice.
Yeah. So let's say somebody comes here from overseas, the other side of the world. They want the full Melbourne hospitality experience for the weekend. Where are you going to take them?
One venue?
No, you can go here for a drink and here for there, and you can go there for dessert or whatever you want to do.
All right. Do you hear something really funny? Whenever anyone asks me where should I go for dinner, it's like I just go blank, even though I work in the industry and I spend all my time in the heart of the city. All right, so iconic. So Nomad is, it might have been new to Melbourne, but it's definitely part of Melbourne. Nomad is great for snack. The tongue. The tongue skewer is just amazing. I would go to, Edda for a really nice meal. Roisin does amazing things. I think Smith and Daughters, Shannon Martinez is a fucking rock star. And if you look at her food and the food that they're doing down there, it's just delicious and just happens to be vegan. But I think that is a big part of Melbourne and that that plant-based.
It really is, isn't it?
She was definitely the catalyst to make it as sexy as it is today. Lee Fook is a great sort of down alleyway experience in the city. Where else would I go? Entrecôte for a really good steak.
From a vegan restaurant to a steak restaurant, so you're really covering the whole gamut.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's, and you got to go to Chinatown or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get some
like
MSG.
Yeah, some hutong. Definitely.
So you did mention the vegan thing, and obviously now it's, veggie options and vegan options are everywhere. So that's got to be challenging with from a pub perspective as well. Like, you can't just bang out a eggplant parma and think that the vegetarians are going to be happy with that.
I'm sure they're over that. I think it's really important to have a really, really balanced menu regardless. I think there was this big trend on substitutes, which I think have, there's enough of them now.
Yeah.
I can't have another supplier come in and show me another vegan burger substitute because I'm just done. But I think, cooking vegetables are so rad and they're so tasty and they're so amazing, and just cooking really great vegetable dishes out of vegetables. Yeah. I think, that is really important. So you need to be able to give, your customer base is so diverse, and a lot of people will choose to eat, no meat Mondays or do this or that just because it's better for the environment, and no doubt it is, right? And some people do it for a health conscious thing, and plant-based diets have been proven to be far better for you, regardless whether you're a bodybuilder or, an Instagram influencer. So, I think having a really well-rounded menu is really important for anyone.
Yeah. And there is a lot of people out there that are meat eaters that will choose the vegetarian option. My partner does that a fair bit.
Yeah, I just couldn't eat meat every day. Like I love a really good high-end quality steak, but I have it maybe once a month. And other than that, I wouldn't eat red meat. I
Really?
just don't tuck into a steak, on my break or anything like that.
It is a heavy meal.
Yeah, it's a heavy. I just couldn't do it all the time. But yeah.
With the like you said, the meat substitutes, it's a strange like subgenre because a lot of people obviously do want meat and they go vegetarian or vegan for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But a lot of I think it's kind of weird because a lot of them don't want to taste a burger. They don't like that sort of consistency, and there is a lot of that stuff out there now.
Yeah. I think there's two types. Some people are doing it because their doctor said you need to eat less meat, but you still want to tuck into a wicked burger with cheese and burger sauce and all those sort of things. And there's some people that just don't like meat because they don't like meat.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a massive market for both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that, I'm, as someone who's always eaten meat, I just couldn't get my head around wanting to eat something that was exactly like meat but not eating the meat.
Yeah. When I got back from Vietnam, actually, me and my partner we didn't eat meat for like 5 months, which is really good. But the problem is we didn't do it well. We didn't substitute like for just veggies. We were eating like burgers and, and then I think I felt worse after a while. But yeah, I just wanted to sort of clean eat a little bit, but it didn't end up being so clean. But you definitely, veggies are great. Eat your bloody greens.
It must be hard for people that work in kitchens though to maintain their because you're just surrounded by food all the time, which I guess it must be hard you love food that much to be healthy and to not overindulge all the time.
Yeah. It's a wild ride. Yeah, especially doing menu tastings 3-4 times a year, and I'm doing 45 of them, and it's pretty much every week you're doing a couple. And
it's important that you know what it tastes like if you're going to be putting it out there.
Yeah, for sure. And then you just want to have a nap. And it's like 2:00 in the afternoon and you just want to nap.
I think that's part of getting older as well. Like you just eat something heavy in the middle of the day and then it's almost lights out.
Exactly. Which has been a great part of being on holidays, being able to have a little nappy do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I need to move to a country where it's just part of the norm, I reckon.
Is that on the horizon one day? You move somewhere and open up your own place and cook the Palmer exactly how you think a Palmer should be?
I wouldn't have a plan. I think, look, my partner has one of the best jobs in the country, I reckon. I know that's a big call, but she, just loves her job, and she's quite a little bit younger than me, 7-8 years, and really just found her dream job 3 years in. And I think I've had my time in the sun, and we've moved. We were together in Perth. We've been together for 12 years, and a really important thing for me is to allow her time and space to have her journey. So whatever, happy wife, happy life. So whatever she wants to do at the moment, it's on her.
So she moved here because it was you had the opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we moved together. But she's so in love with her job, and she's got one of the best jobs. She actually runs the forum in the city, and I just don't think she'd ever want to leave. Yeah. That job, she helps produce music shows, and she's the ops manager, so gets to open doors and brief the teams and just watch all this amazing music and meet the artists.
In the coolest venue in Melbourne.
In the coolest venue in Melbourne. So I reckon the odds of me moving out of Melbourne are pretty fucking low.
Well, is it something that you would like to do within Melbourne? Would you like to open your own? Obviously, you've got control of some venues, but what about your own one that you could do it exactly how you wanted to? Yeah,
we'll see. Like, I don't know. Sometimes it's nice to work for, a bunch of venues and have that safety and security. I'm 40 now. I'm not a biggest risk taker. Maybe I'm getting a bit soft and a bit safe. Never say never. And I've got the idea of what I want to do, exactly what I want to do. But it's just finding when the right time is, And I think a lot of people have done it and been really successful. But putting all your own cash into something terrifies me as well. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just a pussy, maybe.
It is. Yeah, it's a daunting thing.
Yeah. I talk to people, and their businesses, are really successful, and they're saying that they haven't given themselves a wage for a certain amount of time, and these are restaurants that you wouldn't imagine that. So
And the toll it can take on your mental health and your life in general. You know what I mean?
And I know what I give now to my business, and I run it like my own in my department. And I just, I don't think I can have a day off and go, right, I'm off on Sunday. And if the pub's burning down, call the fucking fire brigade because I'm having the day off. I still answer, if something's gone wrong, but I have that space to be able to disconnect. But I don't, and I'm always on, and it's very rare that I'm sort of not working. But I don't think I could just imagine how next level I would be.
Yeah.
If it was my own business.
But, too intense.
Too intense, and just like and not saying I let knives and forks go in the bin, but I'm just thinking like every time you hear a glass break, I'm just be like, I just don't know whether I could do. I want to do it, but I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see down the track. You did touch on before a little bit about mental health. Is it a safe spot within the kitchen for people to be open and honest now about that? Because it is.
We've come in leaps and bounds, and we needed to make a shift. I'm not going to talk for everyone's kitchens, but
you can only talk for your own experiences.
Yeah, I can only talk for my own experiences. But we have, there's a lot of people focusing on it. There's still people that are going to do the wrong thing, but we put a lot of emphasis on making sure our teams are okay and about bloody time. And I think the really important thing to have to do as well is like check yourself, as well. Because to be a leader, if you're not okay within yourself, it's really hard to put your focus into other people as well. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've had a few people on recently, and we've touched on a lot of the mental health stuff, and it's awesome that in a lot of different not only occupations but just genres of life that people can talk about it now.
Yeah,
because it just wasn't spoken about previously. So now, and I could imagine that there are a lot of stressed people and a lot of people that within sort of that chef space that probably, like you said, you're an interesting bunch generally, and a lot of people that might have issues, but it's awesome that they can talk about it now.
Yeah, for sure. Well, look, we can talk about it. We're still going through an epidemic, and we're a lot more open and honest, and we have programs, and there's a lot of people doing good things in that space, but we're still going through a fucking epidemic of people dying through mental health and feeling like they can't continue to go on. And it's big in our industry, I've lost a lot of friends and a lot of people I looked up to and a lot of people I admired, and it's still happening a lot.
Yeah.
Too much, actually. Yeah. So what's the solution to that, though? I don't know. But like I said, there's
talking about it at the start.
Talking about it at the start, and there's people doing good things within that space, and there's Sebastian and he's got a business partner. He's doing Minds on Plus, which offers mental health support from people that are trained professionals to go in, because a lot of us try and help people when we're not actually qualified to do that. But that investment is really important. And there's Burnt Chef Project doing some really great things and getting out and talking to people and stuff like that. So there's definitely things happening in that space. But yeah, we've got a long way to go.
And it's also, you can't have people that are not focused, whether it's mental health or anything else, because it's a dangerous place to be if your mind's not on the job.
Yeah.
You can't.
For sure.
Yeah. You can do yourself a real... I'm sure there's plenty of incidents that have happened where people aren't focusing for whatever reason and have really, really hurt themselves within a kitchen.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And that's what when I touched on before, just about like setting people up for success, is really important. And as leaders, if we're going to take on the responsibility and be able to say, I'm an executive chef or I'm a head chef or I'm an operations manager, it's our fucking responsibility to look after our staff.
Yeah.
And we don't have to, we're not medical people and we're not psychologists by any means, but we still need to be mindful and we still need to look at what pressures we put them under and their workloads and take the opportunity to sit down and be like, hey, you're not acting okay today. Like, are you okay? All those sort of things. So, and that's part and parcel. If you don't want that responsibility, then don't take the job. Yeah.
And from the flip side of it, it must be awesome to see people that show a lot of promise and they want to be mentored by you, and you can sort of push them and mould them into something that they may not have been at the start, but you can push them in that correct direction.
Yeah, for sure. I sometimes need to learn. I love the the little project and the kid with the broken wing, but I also need to learn to, that I've got hundreds of staff, so I can't get too in fixing people as well.
Is it because that reminds you see a little bit of yourself in there potentially?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I've had to pick. I've literally, and this happened when I was in Perth. I got a call and I had to go and pick my 2 apprentices up out of a tree in the morning, and they'd Sharpie all over their face and they're on acid, and I had to go and pick them up out it because one had said that the other one they'd swap shifts between the 2 of them, and then none of them had come in for work, and then they were having an argument. I was talking to both of them. They lived together, and I had to go get both of them, and I drove them back to the restaurant and made them sit on the step for 8 hours on the back step with Sharpie all over them
while they're coming down off acid.
Yeah.
Good times.
That was I just remembered that. It was hilarious. It wasn't. I was really pissed off at the time actually because I had to cover the shift. But you go above and beyond for your staff.
You mentioned it, so I have to sort of talk about it. But a lot of chefs do love substances that I've noticed. Is that an issue, or it's something that's not as bad now? I think maybe it's the working nights, or if it attracts that sort of people, but it tends to be, there's a common thread there.
Yeah, I think back in the day, in Europe especially, it was pretty rife, and who didn't love to knock off and down a few beers and probably party a little bit too much. I think people sometimes they work so much, and when they want to go out and party, they need something to help them maybe.
Yeah.
Because they're just tired and
maybe really not everyone else is out.
Yeah, unsocial hours, but obviously. I think it's definitely changing. A lot of my chefs don't drink. No one smokes anymore. No. They all vape. Not they all vape, but a lot of my chefs, they've got families. They've got young families. They don't drink. A lot of them, different cultures, different countries. They just don't have the drinking culture that we did. And I think it's a bloody good thing. That self-sustainability to be able to survive within the industry, and any industry. You can't say that you're going to be successful even as a plumber or a chippy or something if you fucking hit it every day after work and drink, half a carton or a carton of beer and a couple of bags, nobody would be able to survive that. But look, the industry's changing. A lot of the kids are out there in the gym in their break, they're really conscious about what they're eating, and that's probably what the industry missed in my day. It was just right, we finished work, let's go to the nightclub and let's go to the bar and stuff like that. It was just normal when I lived in London to finish work and drink 6 pints and then go home and have 4 hours sleep and get up and do it all over again. But that I could never do that ever again. I was tired. It would take me 3 days to get out of bed. But it's definitely changed, which is good.
This one, I think this might stump you, but what would you do if you didn't fall into this work?
Jesus.
See, and this is, I always get people with this question and they're always like, I don't know.
Oh, maybe social work or something?
Yep.
Yeah, I'd probably try to fix other people.
Yeah.
Even though I'm probably not so fixed myself.
But that seems to be a regular thing. I think a lot of people that had help with counsellors and stuff down the track want to get into help people and go full circle like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be that.
It's not as rockstar as being an executive chef.
Not as rockstar. No. But definitely, something like that.
Just helping people.
Yeah, I enjoy that. If I had more time, I'd want to set up a foundation. And I got given some money to do, not given some money, that sounds bad. It sounds like I've taken the money. I've got, told that I would get financial support to do stuff by my boss and just create a program for at-risk youth to get them into the kitchens and stuff like that. But I just haven't had time.
Yeah, but it's something you could do in the future.
Yeah, it's something I'm really passionate about is trying to, work with people and, that might not have had all the chances or a bit of a rough start and just give them the opportunity to have a fair start, have someone that's going to mentor them and help them through it.
And it seems to be, obviously people in the kitchen don't take too much shit, but I think they'll give everyone a chance, and it seemed to be that a lot of people there probably, if they saw these at-risk kids, they might have seen a bit of themselves in it. So it seems like it would definitely work.
Yeah, for sure. Just there's not enough hours in the day.
Not enough hours in the day.
Hours in the day.
You're spending too much time on podcasts talking shit with me. You could be getting it done.
I'm on holidays.
On holidays.
Yeah.
Okay, so you sort of mentioned that you think potentially you've got ADD or ADHD? ADD.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure. I'm 42, and everyone's told me that I have it, and some people have said I'm really erratic and all these sort of things, and I've had many conversations with my partner about behavioural things, and look, the older I'm getting, I'm on holidays at the moment, and I've been trying to go, right, I'm going to spring clean my house. So I'm trying to pull, did my dry store and stuff at home and pull out my pantry, and then I sort of see something shiny, and all of a sudden I'm dusting the record collection, and then 2 minutes later I'm polishing my shoes, my shoe collection or something, and so the older I'm getting, I feel like it's getting harder to manage, or I'm like fully hyper aware of it, and so I'm actually trying to do something about it. But the problem is, it's really hard to get an appointment. It's so hard to get an appointment for
Because you need a specialist. Like, so you go to GP, then you get the referral, then you got to go to a specialist.
Yeah, I couldn't find any way to get a referral, and I've got about 10 and made calls, and people weren't taking new clients. And I think this is part of a greater issue of anyone trying to get help for mental health.
Totally.
We're just so under-resourced. And this is why, when I was saying it's an epidemic in terms of the mental health of our industry and a lot of people in general, it's really hard to get an appointment, which is really sad. We're very lucky in this country, don't get me wrong, compared to most. But it's still really hard when you're actually ready to get an appointment. And for somebody that struggles to, and this sounds weird because I'm really high performing and I've been really successful, but also that takes a lot more energy than I think it should take. And for somebody that struggles to start a task and then complete a task without starting 10 other ones. Like, I've got all these projects I'm working on, hot sauces, this, that. It's just, I feel like I need to, like, take some of that noise away and focus.
Yeah.
But the thing that I'm struggling with is, if I do that, will I change? And is that actually what I've got, or am I just am I just a chef that's like super creative and had lots of ideas and is a bit hyper? I don't know, but I'm definitely trying to go down that route to see where I'm at, and then if that's where I'm at, do I want to take the medication? Do I not? Will I like it? Will it dull my flame? It's a hard thing. I've felt this way for a long time, and I think. One of the reasons why that stopped me from doing it sooner was I was worried to go to a doctor, and you might feel this. You go to a doctor when you're heavily tattooed. I'm queer, I'm non-binary. You sit there. I've been a drug taker when I was young, in my younger years, and abused drugs in my younger years. And then you go and you sit in front of them, and you're like, "Yo, I want." I want some speed, basically.
Yeah.
And it's put me off, and it's stopped me from, probably helping myself sooner. But now that I've wanted to help myself and see if this is what it is, and try and take some of this noise away and just focus on something and complete tasks and try and be a better person, is it going to change me for not for the best? So it's been a bit of a internal journey,
Yeah. And I guess there's only one way to find out, and that's to go to do it eventually when you can find the right person. It is a shame that people do feel sort of judged with the way that they look or whatever. Like when I go to the doctor, I feel judged because he says, like, how many drinks do you drink? And then, you bring it down a few anyway. Sure. And then they're like, well, that's a lot. And you're like, yeah.
Well, that's not even half. So I don't know. And I guess, it's always that sort of conception sometimes of, heavily tattooed people. Are you chasing a script? Are you, that and it's totally, I've got this amazing doctor, and he's so lovely. And he's never looked at me like that. And it's taken me a long time. Like, when I first moved here, went to this clinic, a Medicare clinic, and, thankfully I'm lucky enough to be able to afford a private doctor. Not everyone has that ability, but I just think about how hard it has been. And he's lovely, and he doesn't look at me like that, and it's all in my fucking head. And I'm my own worst enemy in my own head. Yeah. I've got imposter syndrome really badly, and I get really bad anxiety, so I just work all this stuff up, and I seem really confident, but inside sometimes I'm dying inside. But to be able to get the confidence to do that, be blessed and in a position which I'm very thankful for, to be able to afford to go to a private clinic, but then still have to fucking wait. It sucks.
I think everything is going to be pretty much private at the moment. Like down here where we are, there's one bulk billing clinic.
Yeah.
And I don't think they fully bulk bill. I think that's now just everyone's going to have to pay. And the sad reality of that is
people just don't prioritize. I'm going to prioritize it.
They're not
going to
gonna
prioritize their mental health.
Yep.
They're going to prioritize keeping the lights on and putting food on the table.
Yeah.
Which is really sad.
The sad thing is the people that really need the help aren't going to be getting it now. That's the worst part about it.
For sure.
Even though the system is there to help people, the doctors and the clinics just aren't there.
But they can't, even to get an appointment. Recently, I was going for something else. I had a flu or something, and it wouldn't go away. And I wanted to get a doctor's appointment. It was like, a week and a half to get an appointment. By then, it had gone away. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it sucks.
Yeah. I think that, I guess the first step is figuring out where you're getting the proper diagnosis. Then you can figure out what the medication is. Then you can figure out if it's right for you. Because it might just be understanding what it is and then dealing with it and knowing, okay, well, when this happens, I need to... The cognitive approach, maybe.
Yeah, and I've been reading up a lot of things, and there is a lot of coping things and apps and different things you can get to do to sort of help you manage your day. Mm-hmm. So you don't sort of go... I can start something and, then sort of... someone distracts me and I end up doing, even when you look at my computer and I'm, like I said, I'm high functioning, I get my work done, but I've got 10 pages open on my laptop, or
Organised
my
chaos.
partner looks at my phone sometimes and it's 20 different pages open, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing this and I'm doing that and I'm got this meeting here, and it's just, but is that me and what makes me me?
Yeah, you don't want to change it necessarily.
Yeah,
it's worked for you for 42 years and you're successful. So
I'm successful. There's a few things behind, you don't know. Yeah, there's other things behind the scenes that not everyone sees. So I definitely want to, this, especially this year or the last couple of years, really focusing on my mental health. And like I said, it's really important, for me to be a leader and for me to, have a large group of staff that I manage and to be a better person. It's really important to look after yourself, and I'm definitely trying to do that, but yeah, it's hard to get the appointments and to, get in to see somebody and to know where to start sometimes.
Yeah, there was a story yesterday about an AI generated counsellor that they had, like ChatGPT, but people were using this counsellor to try and get help. That's a scary scenario.
That is scary.
So, you look at the shortage of doctors and the shortage of people, and now people are looking to... And it said something, they had 900 million hits on this AI-generated counsellor. So that's a scary...
Well, it would be free as well, right?
That's the problem, But this was all over the globe, obviously.
Yeah. But you can... One thing I didn't realise, I went to see a psychologist, and I think... the thing, breaking down that stigma towards seeing psychologists, the most successful people in the world see and talk to somebody. I think it's really healthy to go and talk to somebody that's impartial and not biased. You can't just sit at the pub and have sink beers with your best mate, even though that is a type of therapy and we all do it. You've still, your best mate can be like, yeah, that's a fucking great idea. And next minute you're in the... been given really bad advice, but it's really good to actually sit and talk to somebody that doesn't know you and isn't your partner, and it's definitely not your job, the job of your partner to be a fucking counsellor sometimes as well. No. So I think it's really important to do things like that if you have the opportunity. It's very healthy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and you did mention before that you are non-binary, and that is, I guess, something that the awareness about people that are living like that now and mental health within that space, there's a lot of awareness about it, but I'm guessing it wasn't always like that. And it's obviously, for you personally, how's that journey been? And where we are now, it's obviously a welcoming space, but was it always
Most
like
of the
that?
time, yeah.
Still not, you don't feel?
Oh, it depends what suburb you go to or what state of Australia or what country you go to. But, I'm always mindful whenever I go to another country, I don't flaunt my sexuality and my partner, you know, and
Yeah, it's a
respectful,
shame, and it's like that still in 2023. But I guess you've got
to
their
understand
customs.
different religions and stuff like that. And I'm, you know, I definitely am respectful when I go to other countries. And me and my partner have, you know, gone into a mosque and done the full bathe down and to just go in and have a look at other cultures and stuff. So we're very respectful of that. But look, growing up, you know, I knew I was queer from 10. You know, or even younger, and you know, I always felt different, but I hid that until, you know, my late teens, until I was around 18, 19, and then I felt comfortable to sort of be with a girl, and you know, but it was still something I struggled with just because it was different. Grew up in a Christian family, all those sort of things. Went to a Catholic school, and it just, you know, it wasn't. And I say normal, but it just wasn't normal and as normalised back then, and people weren't as supportive. So I think being identifying as female at that time, I think it was a lot easier, you know, acceptable versus male. So guys especially would accept it, maybe not for the right reasons. But yeah, definitely, it was definitely easier identifying as female. But look, you know, if you think about it, 20, 25 years ago, you know, certain people of colour weren't allowed in bars, you know, or 30 years ago in pubs in Australia. So, you know, we were, you know, a minority, but it's definitely becoming, you know, more normal, and people are more accepting, which is a really beautiful thing to see. You know, we got the vote passed, which was a really nice thing. I still, you know, to have to fight for that. And at that time, I think for me was quite damaging as a queer person. I think, you know, I live on the north side of Melbourne. I hang out in really diverse environments. I work in hospitality, which is super welcoming community to work in and be part of that family and that community. And then when it was a plebiscite, right? Referendum, sorry. When about the queer marriage came out, just the, like, looking at posts and all the hate and the commentary, because you don't associate with people within, you know, like...
Yeah, inner city Melbourne, it's not...
It was just weird. Like, I lived here at the time, and I was still travelling back to Perth a lot for work because I was opening venues and stuff over there. And, it kind of was a bit of a shock because all of a sudden what was outside of my bubble and reading how people felt about me and what they would say about my community was really hurtful. But, we got through it. But, it's really nice. You know, there's a lot of trans people now and that are open and just to be, you know, who they are, and a lot of non-binary, and there's people comfortable to say I am who I fucking am and I don't give a shit what you think, and that's a beautiful thing, that they don't have to hide that.
Totally.
There's still always going to be haters, you know, and like I said, it can change from going from, you know, Melbourne is very diverse and I'm very thankful to call Melbourne home, but you can go to different parts of the country and, you know, different places, the further out in towns, and you get some looks and stuff, but it is what it is. You know, I've also got to realise I'm covered in tattoos and my partner's covered in tattoos, and we have, you know, we look a bit different. And we got piercings and stuff like that. So,
but I think that's why people gravitate to Melbourne and the bigger cities more, because they do feel more not accepted, but they're more one with people, and they're not as... a lot of creative people just come here in general because they feel, whether you identify as anything, they come here because they feel that this is more their people.
Yeah, 100%. But there's still pockets of community that they believe what they believe, and you know what? Whatever, as long as you're not hurting anyone, you know.
Yeah.
In the process. So, and like I said, I'm respectful of, you know, I don't rub my relationship in anyone's face. If I'm in an environment, you know, I was just travelling recently and we've been to lots of countries, Malaysia, KL, whatever, you've just got to be respectful where you go and understand and respect other people's cultures and stuff as well.
Yeah. And I still think it is a little bit sad, though, that there is places in the world where you can't be yourself, and I'm sure that'll change within time. It will.
Yeah, but like I said, you know, people of colour at times weren't allowed on buses and in bars, and, you know, there was a disgusting thing that happened in the past, and it is changing. You know, we have a lot of really powerful people doing amazing things in all those communities now. So.
And that also would be with the mental health thing. I guess people that do identify as something than they biologically are, there's got to be a lot of issues there with people that probably feel, and that would raise some concerns with mental health as well. So it's awesome that people can talk about that now.
Yeah, because some people, they end up losing their families. Their families just won't accept it. They feel really isolated. There's I've heard horror stories about. I was really thankful my parents are when I told them, they just laughed at me and were like, "Yeah, we've known for years, 10 years." I was really lucky, but not everyone is as lucky as that. So I was really thankful to have great friends and family around that were still really supportive. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
it's good that we're in a place now where people can be honest and be themselves, and we've come a long way. Australia was a very racist, sexist, homophobic place not that long ago.
Yeah, we've still got a long way to go, but I think the next generation where, people like us, like you and I, are raising kids, and those kids are being taught the right way, and unfortunately, when, generations back, that wasn't what it is. So we've definitely got a lot of work to do, and we've got a bad history, but, people like us can definitely do better and be better and create a better space.
Yeah, we've come a long way.
We have.
But there is a long way to go.
Yes.
Talking about raising kids, my son he said he'll never get tattoos because he sees me come home with like blood on the second skin and stuff, and he's like, nah, that's never happening. So I think the next generation is probably not going to be like that at all.
We'll see. We'll see.
You did mention family, so is that something that's on the horizon?
Yeah, look, definitely. But like I said, my partner has got this awesome job, and I want her to be able to do her thing. So, when's the right time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stick with the pooches and.
Yeah, I've got 2 Frenchies and a cat,
and they're all named after food.
They're all named after food, and I've got hundreds of kids at work, so which I adore, and keep me on my toes. So I think I'm good for now, and we'll wait till Bree's ready.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about what's coming up? What have you got in 2024? Is there anything else that you want to be doing? Is there any gigs that you've got coming up, cameos, or even judging panel things or anything?
Hopefully there's lots of. I actually just became an official judge, so I just did a course, which was good. So I can actually do it like legit.
Does that put a few letters at the end of your, of your name there?
Probably a PhD or something like that. Yeah, I've got Melbourne Food and Wine coming up, which is really cool. I mean, Tay-Tay's coming to town. That's going to be a pretty busy time for the industry, which is awesome. But yeah, Melbourne Food and Wine, doing a really cool event actually at the ESPY.
Yep.
With Posse Shot.
Oh, yep. Carney and Muscles.
And Jimmy from Mezies.
Yep.
So we're doing a really quintessential Melbourne event. Beer, we've got whiskey picklebacks with delicious pickles. We've got pepperoni pizzas by Salim. And it's boozy pastures, dude foodish, really cool tunes. It's like dinner and a show. So obviously we've got, that's part of what the SP does. So we're going to be doing this really cool gig, which to me is really, a big part of Melbourne.
Sounds
it's
awesome.
Not fancy, but it's going to be really cool.
Yeah. Is there a date for that? Can you tell us?
Well, Melbourne Food and Wine, I'm pretty sure is from the 15th till the 20th.
I never would have thought that Posse Shot would be doing something at the Food and Wine Festival.
Yeah.
So that's fucking cool that you can do
something. But they are. But
yeah.
like Collingwood, we're all from the north side, doing something that isn't white tablecloths. And there's so many cool events. They do like that festival gets better and better every single year. And it just goes to highlight every single, level of food within our amazing industry. But yeah, doing something that is really like Melbourne, hip hop, grime.
Yeah.
It's going to be really cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I've had Jimmy on the show here early days, and people always ask for Posse Shot, and Carney said that he will do it eventually.
Yeah.
But he's been very busy, so yeah, man, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, so that's probably what I'm most excited about.
I'm excited. I didn't even know
Yeah,
that. Have you
gotta
released it yet?
No, well, the tickets aren't on sale yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let us know.
I'll let you know.
Look, thanks a lot for coming. I appreciate you making the journey down the Peninsula Link.
It was a nice drive.
It was, yeah, I'd love to come to that gig, and I'd like to see you, and I'd like to have a beer with you sometime.
Yeah, for sure.
But I appreciate you coming.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
3000.